Hello everybody and welcome back to Game Chat. This is Temporal Enigma. So I wanted to make this video a lot earlier, but as you might be able to hear from my voice, I got really sick about a week ago. Oh, and then I yawned. And my voice is still kind of going, so I'm going to try to cut as much coughing out of this video as I anticipate I'm going to be doing a lot of it. Anyway. So, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare comes out tonight, and I wanted to make a video, again, talking about Call of Duty. I've made 2 videos now of this caliber about Call of Duty. One was on my own channel a very long time ago, and one was that other kind of combination Game Chat. Both will be in the description if you'd like to check them out, if I remember to put them in there. But I had a revelation kind of about this game, and this Call of Duty has gotten the most hate out of most of them over the past couple years. And I think it's probably just because this is the most recent one, and people hate Call of Duty a little more every year. And I think I may have narrowed down why. I think it's because they expect the game to be something the game is not trying to be anymore. And I will get into what that means in a minute. But first, let me start by saying I am not a Call of Duty fanboy. I do enjoy the game, and, you know, I have my reservations about Black Ops 3 and why I like certain things, why I don't, and that's not what this video is about. But I just get mad when people get mad for no reason, when they just yell about Call of Duty but don't give you a reason why they're upset. And I may have pinpointed it. Before we talk about that, let's get into some Call of Duty history so I can more accurately describe to you what I'm talking about. Okay, so in order to understand how the history of Call of Duty worked, we have to first understand the history of shooters in the first place. Games in the early 90s were very simplistic, a lot of third-person RPG, point-and-click, RTS-style games, because that's all the technology that was available at the time. Well, all that was flipped on its head in 1993 when Doom was released. Doom is credited as being the first, at least mainstream, first-person shooter. The first game that puts you in the eyes of the person that you're playing as, and you're able to shoot on-screen enemies. This was completely revolutionary for its time. Counter to those third-person point-and-click games or top-down shooter-style games, this was a completely new thing. And it spawned what are nowadays referred to as Doom clones. Now, nowadays, a lot of things that were in these Doom clones are what we consider staples of first-person shooters. And when Battlefield and Halo both have first-person aspects such as sprinting and jumping, we don't consider that mimicking each other. That's just stuff you expect to see in first-person shooter games. Likewise, when games were being copied, these Doom clones existed, no one really called out on it because the technology wasn't really there to innovate at the time. So you took something like Doom and basically reskinned it to be your own game, modifying a few things. Nobody really got mad at you about it because you really couldn't do much else. And there were a bunch of these Doom clones. The most common being Marathon in 1994, Quake in 1996, Wolfenstein, etc. Quake and Wolfenstein are both made by id Software, which made Doom, so, you know, there's that. Marathon, obviously, made by Bungie. These were the starter of first-person shooters as we kind of know them today. Then came Unreal Tournament in 1999. Here starts the multiplayer experience. However, made by Epic Games, here's our first-person shooter aspect. Kinda unique with the whole crazy guns, funny, weird stuff going on. But what if we made it multiplayer? What if we put you into an arena with other people in multiplayer? And thus birthed the arena shooter. Quake 2 got a multiplayer similar to Unreal Tournament. Unreal Tournament spawned its own sequels. And this became the first-person shooter staple for a very long time. Well, not that long, because guess what also happened in 1999? We'll get to that in a second. But this became its own genre, running parallel to what we know today as first-person shooters. They were not compared at all. There's You got grounded in reality first-person shooters, running, sprinting, clambering, mantling, whatever. And then you've got these arena shooters with giant guns, and you're bouncing all around. You got grav lifts, you're launching in the air, the only real thing with a sight is the sniper rifle, which is a staple of all those games. Very often, there's one gun that just blows up the whole map and kills everybody. Some basic game modes like deathmatch, team deathmatch, free-for-all, and capture the flag. Very, very basic stuff. Well, in the late 90s, we were looking for a new type of game. Something that was different from the Doom clones that we knew at the time. Now, eventually we would get something out of Unreal Tournament, but people were looking for something a little more realistic. Steven Spielberg, yes, Steven Spielberg, the director, really wanted to make a World War II video game. He was an avid game player. He was a huge gamer. And he really wanted to make a World War II game, but at the time it was a huge no-go subject. World War II was not something that you made movies about, you really talked about. None of that was really a thing. Until Saving Private Ryan in 1998, also directed by Steven Spielberg. This was the first real movie to show the war for what it was, talk about the war, and be like, this is a war that happened, here's how it happened. The success of that movie allowed the creation of Medal of Honor in 1999. This is the start of the first-person genre as we know it today. Aiming down sights, sprinting, class systems. Now, it was a very basic class system with not a lot of customization, but it was there. Teammates thrown into an arena, both in campaign and multiplayer, and you're just fighting waves of enemies or the other team in some very basic deathmatch style games. Medal of Honor had several sequels, and eventually it became a parallel to the Unreal Tournament arena shooters, becoming a completely different genre than those shooters. Call of Duty 1 was released in 2003. Now remember, we're in the 2000s, but the technology is still very, very simplistic. Some new stuff has come out, a couple better graphics, compare Unreal Tournament to Unreal Tournament 2004, but it's still very simple. Call of Duty was released to be a competitor to Medal of Honor. If you compare the two games, their gameplay is very similar. The squad leader's telling you what to do, you go around, you do stuff, some rudimentary multiplayer, etc. And both franchises expanded from there, both developing the first-person shooter genre as it sort of created. After 2004, you saw arena shooters kind of die down a little bit as the Call of Duty Medal of Honor crowd, and then subsequently Battlefield, started becoming the staple for first-person shooters. This is where we kind of meet here. Battlefield started taking over. It was a completely revolutionary idea. It, large-scale battles with large-scale maps. And Call of Duty became what we know today in Call of Duty 4. With the create a class system, kill streaks, perks, etc. Medal of Honor died out in 2010 with Medal of Honor Warfighter. The game was received very, very poorly, and I think it was 2010. Maybe it was 2012. I didn't write down the date. I'm trying to remember from memory. I think it might have been 2012. And it kind of died off. So Medal of Honor is no longer a competitor, at least for the foreseeable future. So now you have Call of Duty, and you've got games like Battlefield. And I think what started to happen is as games like Battlefield, more realistic shooters, big world games like big world battle games like Battlefield PlanetSide, realistic and tactical shooters like Battlefield and Rainbow Six, and all these other games started really saying, hey, we are the realistic shooter. People started to notice how unrealistic Call of Duty actually was, with kill streaks, camping, quick shots, or quick scopes, excuse me. Long distance commando knives in Modern Warfare 2. Riot Shield running around, insta melees. Flashbangs killing people. All this stuff that no one really ever thought about. Is just kind of, this is what Call of Duty is. But as realism became more of a staple in games, it didn't become a staple in Call of Duty. Especially when Call of Duty released what people argue is the same game every year. Even though it's modified, they're not seeing this realism return. And you can really trace this back, I would say, to the start of Black Ops. Really with the start, and the key reason of that is the flamethrower attachment. Now, this is a light argument that I have, and you could easily argue against that. The flamethrower is a weapon you usually do not see in a multiplayer game. It's starting to make a comeback, like with Battlefield 1, and it's become a niche kind of thing. But it was something you only really saw in Quake with the napalm gun, or the original Halo CE with the flamethrower multiplayer weapon, or these arena shooter games that pit the flamethrower as this weapon and not so much a actual tool for usage. And Black Ops was very similar to that. What would you do with the flamethrower? You just open it up and start spraying everywhere, damaging everything in the area, probably including yourself. And somebody would end up dying in the end, whether it be you from incompetent damage, or dealing damage to yourself, or the enemy. And I really think this started to happen in Black Ops 2, with the start of the shock charge. This was a way out in left field grenade for Call of Duty at the time. Yes, it was set in the future, and that's fine. But it was still very grounded in reality, which is why a lot of people didn't have a problem with the whole future aspect of it. You know, there wasn't any of that wall running or jumping around yet. So, people see this game that, yeah, has futuristic aspects, but, you know, it's the stuff we've seen, you know, little drones flying around, missiles blowing people up, RCXDs, all that kind of stuff. And then you have the shock charge, which is a stick grenade that stuns and blinds an enemy and slows them down, and can be just like stuck to a wall. It's not a throwable like the concussion grenade or flashbang is. And I really think that whether on purpose or on accident, the people who make Call of Duty started to notice that people were realizing how unrealistic the game was, and how it didn't really fit alongside modern day shooters like Battlefield. Now, I'm not comparing Battlefield and Call of Duty. They are not the same game by any means, but they do compete with each other, regardless of whether they should or not. And I think they started to say, okay, how can we brand our game differently without changing it too much, without making it a completely different game? And I don't know if they did that on purpose or if it just kind of sat in the back of their mind as they were coming up with new ideas. But I believe, regardless, this influenced the decisions we saw later. Ghosts took a light approach to this. Alright, here we go. You guys like Battlefield and stuff. Let's update Call of Duty. Better sound design. You can lean around now. You have peripheral optics, which I can't... dual vision rendering. Dual image rendering, something like that, with the scopes, where you can see like peripherals, blurry peripherals. And then they started to say, okay, so here's the changes. It's a little closer to Battlefield. Let's make it a little closer. And then people started not really liking that. They're like, this feels kind of funky. I always loved the dual render scopes. I thought that was awesome, and they did keep that. That's a really good change. But people started to not like that. So they said, okay, with the DLC, we're going to have a little bit of fun with this. Okay, we've got a map completely based off horror movies. This would be Fog in the first DLC map pack. And you know what? We're going to have a little bit of fun. If you get a kill streak, you can play as Michael Myers. It's really just a reskinned Maniac Juggernaut, but it's kind of fun. And it's kind of funny. And it's a little weird, and it's something you wouldn't normally see in Call of Duty. It's a little tongue-in-cheek. Okay, second DLC. Same idea, but now you can play as Predator. Or, you know, now we're going to make a map where it's like a kill-death arena. And they're starting to have a little bit more fun with it. Make it a little more lighthearted in an otherwise serious game. Okay, we're going to give you some character customization. The most ridiculous one would be the hazmat suit. But it's not really that ridiculous. And then, okay, what if you want to play as Captain Price? And you can just be or you can be Makarov from Modern Warfare. Or, you know, we'll have a little fun with this. And then they went and they said, okay, here's the Ripper. Here's a weapon that's half SMG, half assault rifle. Which is something kind of reminiscent of an arena shooter game. People are still going, no, I don't really dig that, and I talked about this in the other video. But then along comes Advanced Warfare. Alright, Battlefield is a huge thing. Battlefield 4 just came out last year. It has completely blown up. People are, you know, Hardline's coming out later. This is going to be a huge thing. We need to change something. Let's take Call of Duty, let's turn it on its head. Exosuits, that whole 9 yards. I'm not going to talk in depth about that. And then the exosuits eventually led into Black Ops 3 Advanced movement, and that's where we are now. Kind of this crazy Call of Duty-esque game, if you want to compare saying that COD 4 was the true Call of Duty or whatever, where, yeah, you have the staple of Call of Duty, but you're also wall running and jumping around, and now you've got crazy gun perks that, like, oh my god, you know, what's going on? Let me take a step back before I give you the final answer to this solution. Battlefield, and I'm just going to use Battlefield as an example, is a large-scale game. There is a lot going on in a Battlefield game. From, no matter what game mode you're playing, let's say you're playing Conquest. You've got vehicles blowing up one objective. You've got some guy, let's take Battlefield 1 as an example. You've got some guy with a giant MG48 mowing down everybody who can't be killed by a headshot. You've got a plane crashing into another plane in the sky. And then there's you and your buddy running around a building with a shotgun. It's not based around kills. The guy who runs around, even if you don't fire a single bullet, but you revive everybody, or you give people ammo, or you spot people, or all you do is ride around in the back of a plane, shooting at other planes. You don't kill anybody, but you ward them off. You are contributing to your team. You can get top of the leaderboard just by reviving and healing people. You don't have to fire a single bullet in the whole game. That, now, to be said, the guy who gets the most kills is usually on the winning team. And that can be said for any game. But that's not the key to the game. You could see people high above you who do not... You have the most kills and the guy above you has the most revives and he's the top of the leaderboard. Similarly, in Rainbow Six Siege, you see... Oh, I got 4 kills, but the guy above me spotted more guys, destroyed more equipment, captured an objective, and he's MVP. Because the kills is not what's important. Playing your role in the battle is important. Flip side of arena shooters. Entire nonsense, crazy, what the fuckness going on. You're flying around through the air. You've got a shotgun that can kill anybody between you and the wall halfway across the map. You've got a sniper rifle that can one-shot, headshot anybody. The rules are very specific. Headshots do 2 times damage. Here's how much the gun does. Here's the damage. No gun is better than another gun. Every gun is just different. The shotgun is no more powerful than the AR. Maybe in certain situations, you know, like, but overall, AR's got the most fire rate. Shotgun has the best close range damage. Sniper rifle's easy to get headshots. Rocket launcher has the most splash damage, etc. It's just very simple stats. And then you get some of the things with the alternate firing, like, okay, flat gun can do this, whatever. In the background right now, you're seeing footage from Toxic. This is arena games are starting to get a revitalization with the new Unreal Tournament being released, and this is Toxic, which is kind of based off arena games. You can see what I'm talking about. You could spawn in a free-for-all game 2 minutes before the game ends and completely crush the guy who's already got 15 kills. And you could just wipe him off the scoreboard and instantly jump to first place. the game is always dictated by kills. Almost always. Yes, you could be playing CTF, and yes, there are exceptions. But 9 times out of 10, the guy who kills the most players is going to be on the winning team. Because kills are essential to arena shooters. Even if you're playing like CTF. Even if you're playing a non-kill-based game mode. What other game has kills almost always been essential to success? Call of Duty. And here's where the parallels draw. I think Call of Duty is trying to be a new age arena shooter. People were complaining a bit about the gun perks in the new Call of Duty. Let me give you an example. One of the gun perks is when you kill somebody, you get a little bit of health back. And you think, oh, I saw him with a shootout with a teammate. I think he has no health left. Oh, I shoot him. Oh, he had more health than I thought. That is a valid argument. However, I will counter-argue with that with, I have never thought that about anything in a Call of Duty game ever. I've always been like, enemy, and I start shooting until someone is dead. That is how I play Call of Duty. I don't think, he should take one headshot to kill. I'm going to boop up. That's how I think in a Battlefield game. Oh, I saw him take a shootout with my teammate. I'm now going to rush in at him because I know I'm going to kill him with a knife. Or, I don't have any ammo, but I saw him take a lot of hits during our little battle. I can just run at him with my pistol. Whatever. Call of Duty, I don't think that way. Call of Duty is extremely fast-paced nowadays, like an arena shooter, and is very much like, enemy, start shooting. Do you aim for headshots? Sure. Do you try to use the weapon best to you? Sure. But I could be wrong, other people could think this way, but in my head, I'm not analyzing, how much health does this guy have? Am I going to be able to kill him in time? No. I go, enemy, and I start shooting. And then either I die, or he dies. And then confrontation over. You know, the fact that he's gained 20 health points back is not ultimately going to affect it, because he's going to die in 2 or 3 shots anyway. I'm not going to do one of those things where I'm focusing, okay, he should take 2 shots to die, boop, boop, and move on. I'm just going to shoot till he's dead, because I'm going to miss half my shots anyway. And I really think that's kind of what's happening here. That's why the developers aren't worried about gun balance as far as gun perks are concerned. You know, oh, this gun has less drop-off range. Okay, that can be an issue. But ultimately, there's going to be some dude with an SMG who's going to run very, very fast and counter that guy with a sniper rifle anyway. Or there's going to be some guy who's going to shoot a rocket across the map and still kill the guy with the sniper rifle. You've got this chaos that can only be matched by an arena-style game where there are 101 things that can happen to you in that moment that you with that thing does not matter. And Battlefield, I guess you can argue that, but I'm talking in the realm of this game. I have a sniper rifle that when I shoot someone in the crotch can deal double damage. How often can I actually shoot someone in the crotch, first of all? Secondly, how many kills, unless I'm really, really good, which pro players outrank everybody anyway, how many kills am I actually going to get with that before I die? How overpowered is that actually going to be? How many people are going to walk up to me after a gunfight with a regenerative health perk and shoot 2 shots into me thinking I'm going to die? I don't see that happening a whole lot. I see just chaos with some control and you got some backdrop to it. So in short, this has been a long kind of all over the place video. I really think Call of Duty is trying to brand itself more as a new age arena shooter, where we have old age arena shooters making a comeback like Unreal Tournament and Toxic, and we have realistic shooters like Rainbow Six and Battlefield taking the realism. Call of Duty doesn't have a place anymore, and I think what they want is they want to go, okay, let's do something different. Let's take something no one's ever seen before. And it really starts to become hard for people who don't seem to think this way, seem to think that Call of Duty is still meant to be this realistic, gritty shooter that I remember from 10 years ago, when really they're not trying to be that, whether on purpose or on accident. Anyway, I know this was a little bit of a long video. Let me know what you guys think. You know, what do you think about this? Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you have any counterpoints? Anything to add? Let me know in the comments. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you on the next one.